70 partout.
What is going on, jerk faces? You're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, presented to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's your homeboy Andy. Nocturnal Transmissions, the conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. With me, as always, co-hosting this thing is the homeboy Robert.
What's going on, guys?
Yes. For those of you who are regular viewers and fans, we do apologize for missing out on last week. We had a few scheduling problems, and the guest hosts that we had lined up couldn't make it last minute, and so because this show is a conversation, and you can't have a conversation with just one person. So
you could, but you'd probably be.
I could, but then the men in the white coats would come and get me.
You need to wear a straight jacket and kind of be in have padded walls around you.
Yeah, no, I gotta do the rigs, from Lethal Weapon. Yeah, it's completely out of my mind.
Well, I was always told that, it's talking to yourself is normal. So when you start answering yourself, that's when the real, you have some real issues.
Also, not to be selfish about it, but yes, last week was also mine and Rob's birthday, so it was kind of nice to have a little break before the day before. So I'm gonna count it. It was like a little break for our birthdays.
I'll take that. That'll work. Yeah.
Not that we don't love putting on this show for you guys. All one of you. I'm just kidding.
Hey, you know what? We don't necessarily. I mean, obviously, we want the numbers to grow, and we want to grow this channel to be something really big and cool. And I think we'll eventually get there. It's just, but the reason we do this isn't. That's not the reason we do it. We do it because we have fun, and we want to share the type of fun that we have with the rest of you guys and whoever ends up watching this later on. It's something that kind of take it, as I've always said, it's something that I feel that can take our mind off of just some of the more, the ridiculous craziness that's going on in the world today.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's that, but every once in a while, it's okay to talk about.
Oh no! I mean, we sometimes have to get serious and whatnot, but
yeah.
I think we don't go out of our way to be kind of just here we go again. Here's this talking. Of course, another person dogpiling on the whole conversation. We're kind of off doing our own thing.
Yeah, I mean, social media has become so exhausting and a little bit infuriating and a lot depressing. Especially the kind of crap that people put up. I'd give my left testicle for social media to be nothing more than selfies, food pics, and cat videos again. I really would.
I'd be okay with that.
Right? I mean, if social media was just that again, and awful vacation pictures, I would give my left testicle for the social media to be that again.
Yeah, unfortunately, what it ends up becoming is, you and I our whole group kind of watches. We watch a bunch of other podcasts and stuff, just because they're fun, and there's something that was on the one of the Joe Rogan podcasts that I was watching where he was kind of talking about it's all about people are off on one side, and they're picking teams, and they're entrenching themselves in one thought, and they can't get past that. When in reality, I think what causes a lot of just the insanity, for the rest of us, you have a lot of positional grandstanding that all these groups are doing. And then the ones that are like, being driven crazy are people like you and me who, we don't believe in just one thing. We're not just one position. We're not one, one thing. And it's because we can think for ourselves, but in reality, as humanity is not, humans are not just one aspect. It's like, your name is Andy, you're a Korean guy, you have your disability, but not just one of those things makes up who you are. It's a combination of like, the things about your personality, the good and the bad, and all that stuff makes up who you are, and affects how you think. And it's where there's certain aspects of maybe more of like the the left argument and the right argument, like hey, like both those sides have some good points, but then you get like the crazy extremes and like all the other like branches off of that it feels like no one's wanting to take the little bit of extra time to really think about what they're saying. And like and I've always said that, because I kind of have that contrarian way about me, is like, okay, everyone's kind of shitting on this one thing. Why is that? So you look at it, it's like, well, wait a second. What they're saying is not true. Like, it's not all that. Like, maybe it was something where someone said something. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe they weren't very tactful, or they could have put it a better way. But he's not wrong. But it is shocking because people don't want to hear something that like they either need to hear, or is opposing their thought or view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, what is it? What a lot of people do now is just kind of like focus on the small parts and emphasize only like those small parts when it most benefits them. When that's not how it works. You can't choose to emphasize one part of you at one time and then emphasize another part of you in another. Because like how you were saying, that I'm a guy, I'm Korean, I have a disability, I'm all those things simultaneously. It's not one thing has to be
Yeah.
one thing has to happen more at one time than the other. It's all happening at the same time, and it's like I would describe it as being a delicious smoothie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the one thing that always kind of bothers me about like some of the identity politics that are going on now, where it's like, I'm this race, or I'm this sexual identity.
Right, they have the laundry list. I'm this and a that and a
But something that I see is like, so is that all you are? That seems, and that's the only thing that matters about you? That seems like kind of like a sad existence. Like, what about like your character? What do you think about? Like, what makes you? There has to be something more to you than that. And if that's all that you have, that's really to me, I think that's a very sad existence.
It is a sad existence. And I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, it was a tragedy, but like the shootings in Las Vegas last week, and they're like, they just kept trying to pin some sort of label on the shooter, and there might not be one. I mean, we still don't know jack about the guy's motives, or what, or his motivations.
Lots of crazy accusations, and
like they wanted to call it. Yeah, first they wanted to call him a right wing nut, and then like he submitted allegiance to ISIS, and all these but it's like we don't know, because this guy could be like the unicorn, the only mass shooter without any like religious or political affiliations, or any like mental or any. I mean, I don't know because we don't know if he's ever been diagnosed with any sort of mental disorder. But
Apparently
he might be that unicorn that that's non-religious, non-political, no mental disorder killer in the history of the United States.
I mean, there's there's always like the other actually say, there was another shooter. There was more than one. It's like,
yeah, right.
We got a whole new grassy knoll situation going on.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, because there was like that. There was videos of like the supposed like second shooter, but it was just really the echo from the shooter's gun. And then there's also a video of the supposed like muzzle flash from like the 12th story or whatever.
Yeah, like I said, all sorts of crazy stuff. But one thing that a lot of people don't want to, I think, attribute is like sometimes they're just evil in the world.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that that all people are evil or whatever. It's like that's. I mean, we all have the capability of doing really things to each other, but I think there's also a strong capacity for good. But there's also, we have to recognize that honestly, there's sometimes where evil just happens, and it's just the way our world works, and all the trying to rationalize it, or political grandstanding that came like 10 seconds after the shooting.
Mm-hmm.
None of that stuff is no solution's really going to come from it. Like all ended up becoming, to me, from what I'm seeing, instead of just like, hey, you know what? Not that like it's just to kind of get over it, but the victim.
We're not saying that this should be swept under the rug, or like saying that there's never going to be an answer. I mean, we should endeavor to find the answer for why he did this.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying like stop investigating and just like get over it. Yes, of course. I think that we should try to see like what exactly happened to the best of our ability. But from what I'm seeing, just based off all the news coverage and all the social media stuff, is that it becomes where it's fracturing society. Where we need more gun laws, or we need this or that, and that's all it becomes of the argument, instead of like, damn, let's see what we can do for the victims, like their families. Like, can we actually like do something that unfortunately those people are gone. And I mean, yeah, I think it's good to like let's let the dust settle. Let's figure out exactly what happened, and then once the dust settles and we're a little bit removed from what happened, real solutions and like conversation, I think, can happen.
I mean, what was it like? Those poor people, their bodies weren't even cold yet, and it was already like off to the races with like who can like virtue signal the hardest.
Oh God! I mean, Hillary Clinton, like, man, she was on Twitter as soon as that happened, and she took about 10 seconds before she started running amok with like her thoughts. I could not believe just the sheer balls that she has.
Yeah, I mean, well, someone has to have. Well, bills are busy, with someone else, but yeah, like the whole thing with like the silencer things. I guess the.
It doesn't have to do with anything, and
yeah, because especially the caliber of bullet that the shooter was using. Like it's a freaking freight train, essentially, like a 223 or a 308.
Yeah.
Yeah, that caliber, it's a freight train. It's loud as hell, so it doesn't matter like if a silencer was on it, or the more apt describer would be suppressor. It's like, okay, this is like it would be like without a suppressor, it'd be like, pow, where's the shooter? There he is. And with a silencer, pow! Where's the shooter? There he is. That's it.
And see, I think, well, first of all, it's one of those conversations that, first of all, guy didn't have a silencer, or
Yeah.
sorry, let's get the right term. It's a suppressor. Silencer is a misnomer.
It's a stupid, it's a term used by people who don't know anything about guns. That's what it is.
First, and the thing is, we kind of think of it as just like super spy James Bond, where
right,
like
exactly.
all of a sudden the gun, you can't hear the gun, and all it does, because when you shoot, if you don't have hearing protection, you will fuck up your ears forever. Like they are loud.
And again,
it doesn't matter what gun it is. They're loud.
Yeah.
And you will mess up your ears if you don't have hearing protection. All a suppressor does.
And again, like the caliber of ammunition, like 223, 308, those are freaking huge.
Yeah, and all a suppressor does is take it from those dangerous ear-damaging levels.
Yeah, those eardrum-bursting levels.
At a safer level. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that it's not loud. It's still loud. You can
still hear it. You can still hear the report, but it's just not gonna like break your eardrums.
Yeah, I mean that's I think a lot of people who are trying to make all this stuff, they're either not. I wouldn't say about like outright lying. Sometimes I think a lot of it is just they're not well researched and they don't understand what all that stuff is about.
Yeah, like I mean, okay, continue.
Oh no! All I was saying is that like it just felt a lot of the stuff that's said feels very unresearched, and it's just more
for sure. Especially like the Jimmy Kimmel monologue.
Boogeyman, like they instead of actually like hey, let's look into this. Let's think about and actually like do some research and like let's not be scared about it. Let's look into it. But no, they want to create this boogeyman that like it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, I think a great example of that is the Jimmy Kimmel monologue. Where he's like, he's basically talking out of his ass because he conflates automatic and semi-automatic, and like he's never touched a gun, he's never fired one, so he doesn't know jack. He doesn't know jack.
And, I'm sorry. Continue.
Oh, and like after that, he got more security on his set. Like again, more guns, more guys with guns to protect him.
No, don't they have magic wands? Isn't it? I mean,
yeah, Harry Potter. What's that one spell that they always use? I don't even know. I'm not a Potterhead, so.
Harry Potter spells.
Yeah, right.
It's like they're not waving magic wands or like they're not doing Jedi mind tricks like to protect them. They have guns, Jimmy. It
was like there was a reason why it was dubbed like the cult with its revolvers called the Peacemaker, or I love that one quote, like, God didn't make all men equal, Samuel Colt did.
Yeah. That's a great one.
Right? And it's like, yeah, because like there was a reason why it was called a Peacemaker, or guns are, kind of like the moniker is like the Great Equalizer, is because when you have a gun and your opponent has a gun, you guys are either you could either both equally be alive or both equally be dead. So it's your choice.
Yeah. The other thing that unfortunately it get kind of, like I said, gets lost in the argument is caring for the victims, and something that say what you will about kind of the craziness that goes on in the United States, but I think that disaster brings out the best, can bring out the best in us.
Oh yeah, obviously.
You saw a lot of people who are just like business owners in the Vegas area, like people who are from there, who are famous, like they went out of their way to like give their time and their money and effort into helping out the victims and like kind of and all that stuff. What was really cool was a few of the NASCAR drivers are from Las Vegas, and one driver in particular, Brendan Gaughan, I think his family owns one of the casinos out there, or like he's been sponsored by this one casino chain for a long time. And what they were doing is that those who couldn't get a hold of their family members that were potentially in that shooting, they were giving free to call them, and they would give up free rooms while they would help aid them in like finding like their family members. That's insane. Like, you know, that's you know, millions of dollars potentially lost, and they're just giving, hey, no, come, we'll help you. And
right, yeah, we'll put you up. We'll we'll basically you'll support you in this time of of need. And I think that's like also one of the great examples is during Hurricane Harvey, and you had all these people heading towards like the flooded areas in like their own boats. People using giving up their time, their resources to go help out people, to go save, go rescue like stranded people on top of their roofs and all that stuff. The Cajun Navy, as they were dubbed.
Ain't no matter you want to build a boat, that's all. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Just another example of the spirit, and the compassion that resides in all Americans. When disaster strikes, when tragedy hits, we all come together.
And that's the stuff that gets lost. It's a lot. And you look at some of the relief efforts in those places, and you see how like people who might not necessarily like know each other any other way, or normally would be on like opposing sides of stuff. It's like, hey, no, that's all trivial at this point. Like
it's all set aside. It's all set aside.
I think I saw something. I don't remember if it was like the Texas or the Florida hurricane, but this like black guy was taking his jet ski, and like he was like going up to people's houses who were flooded. It's like, hey, come on, like and taking them to safety. That's cool. Yeah. And that's stuff that doesn't get talked about. And all it talks about, like, well, these people didn't get helped. Well, they like it's so and so's fault, and finger pointing. It's like, it's a fucking disaster. Like, of course, yeah, there's gonna be people that fall through the cracks. They're not. It's not because it's like, well, fuck those people. That's not what's happening in these times. It's unless you've been in like one of those type of situations, you don't realize how just chaotic the whole thing is. Yeah, some people are gonna like not get the relief that they need right away. It's gonna take time, but overall, you saw where like a lot of people were being helped, and the death toll was relatively low from what I've heard in all those hurricanes and stuff that were happening. Even all the Puerto Rico crisis. I mean, it's still bad that people are dying, but the numbers could have been much more like terrible. Like I to be honest, I think more people were like casualties in that gun shooting than some of the hurricane stuff. But it's just it's one of those things where you look at all these like disasters one after another, and it's the finger pointing is what kind of is the newsworthy stuff. That's the shock value. There's something about watching a train wreck on TV that people can't look away. But I think for the efforts, like all the good that comes from these things, that should be highlighted a lot more. I think that would help bring our country a lot closer together.
No, I completely agree. Completely agree with you.
Well, we definitely went on like more of a serious topic tonight. I mean,
it happens.
I had a whole like monologue meeting. It's like, we don't want to like get into this, the same, we want to be something that's more entertaining to get people away from that. But I think that's something that
entertaining, and I think I think more center-minded people should be speaking up more. And and I think even though we may have right leanings, we are definitely more center, and we definitely approach things more. We try to with more thought and nuance than what you might get from like watching your cable news networks or whatnot. So
yeah, which are it's nearly unwatchable. I mean, I still like try to like watch stuff here and there, but it just I look at it as like the world's we're it's fucking over. Like when you watch these shows, it's
or at
like
least at least the way that these more leftist leaning news networks make it out to be. It's like it's like Chicken Little and the sky falling. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah. Well, I think I've mentioned this on this show before, but there's a comedian by the name of Alonzo Bowden, very funny dude. And one of his famous bits that he does is talking about how, about like when disasters or something like bad is happening. It's like, oh, it's the worst disaster that's ever hit us, and we're all gonna die. It's like, and he's like, whoa. Now I call bullshit. Like it's and he went through like this whole like list of stuff, and you look at the past like, it's like it's the swine flu. It's gonna kill us all. Like it's the worst epidemic of all time.
Oh yeah, right. And it was like swine flu and
we're all gonna die.
Bird flu and
yeah, it's like I don't have
SARS.
it's like his joke was that like I don't have time to deal with that. Like I'm still trying to get over my SARS or the anthrax or all this stuff, and you look back, it's like it's stuff that happens, and yeah, some people got hurt or affected by it, and that's terrible, but it's not the worst fucking thing that ever happened to the world.
Agreed.
And honestly, like not to sound callous, but sometimes like I think we need a good old plague to hit us.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Sometimes I just want to tell people get over it. No one. Yeah, I mean, because like growing up, no one like wept. No one wept for me. Not to make it all about me, but growing up with my disability and stuff, no one wept for me. No one. No one put out a crowdfunding thing for me. No one, coddled me to like, oh no, don't ever try any of the. Well, my mom, kind of, but she's my mom, and she, I came out of her vagina, so we'll give her a pass. Yeah. But it's just like, yeah, I mean, I didn't get any attention, and so. But I still came out. I'm still highly I'm a highly functioning, capable, contributing member to society.
Right.
It's just like I really like. I kind of want to give I kind of want to give talks at schools and stuff and tell kids like, hey, toughen up, Buttercup.
Yeah, it's like because the real world it's a bunch of crocodile tears. They don't give a shit about anybody but themselves. You have to
and this infantilization that's going on at schools and like even universities where like they're not exposing the students to harsh realities because outside of school no one gives a shit like what you identify as is can you get the job done.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. And the other thing too is that everyone has different circumstances, and we all agree that there's some people that like they start off with better advantages than others, and sometimes. But,
but to that case, like that's no fault of their own. So like let's say a white kid and an immigrant kid, the white kid's parents are kid. Has the benefit of like their family being here way lot longer, so they could be established, and so they know the culture, they know the language, they know like the systems of like society and how it works, and they have that benefit of being more established as opposed to the immigrant kid whose parents just got here and they're working extremely hard to get by and kudos to them for working like ridiculously hard, long hours and multiple jobs just so that their kid could have a better chance, better opportunity than from where they came from. And so,
exactly.
It's like you can't blame someone for being born to a certain family or to a certain skin color. You know, it's just the roll of the dice. Or it's just it's just what is it? What's that thing when they pass out the cards in like poker?
It's the shuffle
or luck of the draw. It's just the luck of the draw. It's just the luck of the draw, and it's all and then from there it's all on you to either win big or or fold.
It's one of those things where it's like, okay, you get like the guy that's got like pocket aces and like he's got. But you can see the thing is you can still fuck up in that if you
right, especially if the other guy has pocket jacks and then the river comes and he gets a jack.
Yeah, and so like I said, circumstances change as time goes on. You can fuck up like you have all these advantages starting out, but you can piss that away. I've seen countless people like where they just can't get out of their own way despite all like the advantages that they do have, and they end up in a gutter somewhere. And then I've seen people who started out with like 2 pennies and they're rocking it now. Like it's
the
all
classic immigrant story of someone coming with nothing but the clothes on their backs and 2 pennies in their pocket, and then they go on and then they end up like amassing this great fortune and starting all these big businesses and pretty much living the American dream.
And it's not just like those one things. Like there's the like the like the money advantages, the family advantages or disadvantages. But it also comes down to like who you are as a person too. Like personality is like a huge thing. We're not just like one thing. Like sometimes like there's people who are hardworking. Like that's just in their DNA who they are.
It's part of their upbringing also.
They're very intelligent. They're very environment plays a part in that too. But like they have the capacity to like learn very quickly or view things very quickly. Whereas someone is like, hey, it takes them a little bit longer to figure things out, and they eventually get there, but like, it just takes more time. And this whole idea of comparing ourselves with one another, like it's good to give ourselves goals and benchmarks, and like hey, I want to be like that guy. Mm-hmm. But just because you don't
aspirations.
Just because you don't get to a certain goal doesn't necessarily make you a failure either. Like you learn through that process, and sometimes as life goes on and circumstances change, you adjust those goals to something different. And I'm the situation I'm in right now is not the best. It's pretty crappy, but at the same time, there's still I still have a lot of great things. I don't consider myself like unlucky or like that like a terrible person, and I don't like look at someone who has stuff that I don't have right now that I want I would like to have. And it's like, how dare he have stuff over me? Like it's just life happens. Like it could flip it could flip tomorrow it all changes.
Yes, fortune is a fickle mistress.
Yeah. It's just the weird. People don't understand. It's like sometimes life has never promised us to be fair. Like no matter what you believe, like whether you're kind of atheist and like if you're an atheist, you understand it's like life is just, if that's the case, this whole thing is just a bunch of gambling that just kind of worked out in humanity's favor.
And not to maybe even like not to put it in so much of a biblical text.
We got booted offline.
Yeah. Okay, we're back.
Okay, that was.
No. Sorry for the little glitch there, folks. But like I was saying, the kind of I could maybe quote like a biblical passage about how life being unfair or whatever, but I'm gonna instead quote another from another book. And it's life isn't fair. It's just fair. It's just more fair. It's just fairer than death. That's all.
I like that quote actually.
Yeah. And it's actually from The Princess Bride. So.
That's right.
Yeah.
God, I haven't watched that movie in so long.
I know it's so good. It's so good. I love that movie.
I gotta put that back on my queue. We'll definitely talk about that movie at some point. I want to, but I would say like no matter what you believe, it's just like they said life is never promised to be fair, no matter like what your religious background is, or if you don't believe in any of that stuff at all. And from like the atheist position, is like this whole thing is a bunch of chance, and some people just they roll snake eyes, and some people roll something different. It's just how the world works.
Yeah, to quote someone else, sometimes you have to roll the hard 6.
Yeah.
That was William Adama, played exquisitely by Edward James Olmos from Battlestar Galactica.
There were so many great quotable lines from that show.
I know, it's so good. It's so good. Everyone, I remember when it was still like on TV, and everyone was kind of like dogging me about it. It's like, oh, Battlestar Galactica. I was like, no, not the 1970s version, but the new, like the reimagined one. It is so good. It's not just like, I mean, it is science fiction, but it's realistic science fiction. It's more of like a political like drama and thriller, and kind of like a survival guide for survivors of an apocalypse or a great and natural disaster. How to rebuild civilization.
Yeah, the writing was brilliant. Like there were so many like thought-provoking like ideas and concepts that they threw at you. It was I can't give it high enough ratings. Like,
right, I know. Like what was it? I remember. I think it was about the time when it was still like the Iraq War, and you kept hearing stories on the news about like insurgents and suicide bombers and all that stuff, and there was a season of the show where they decided to spoiler alerts, but they decided to settle on a planet, and the enemy tracked them down somehow, and kind of occupied them, and the heroes started using suicide bombers. And it was like that great, I think like the actress that played the president, she asked like this great philosophical questions. Oh, how could we claim the moral high ground when we are sending our people to die with bombs strapped to their chest, and then kind of making insurgents or suicide bombers kind of sympathetic. One of the military leaders that is like, oh, we're bad men in the garden, and we have to do these awful things to ensure our freedom. It's we're at war. There's no time. There's no time for niceties, and it was kind of scary because they were the good guys, and so like you kind of like were rooting for them, but then they were using like these grotesque and awful tactics. That's like, how can you justify that?
Yeah.
So if you weren't intrigued by my little synopsis of one episode, a really good episode.
God, that was one of the better ones. Yeah, that was really good.
So so for you viewers out there, if you weren't enticed by that breakdown of that episode, and you're not intrigued,
no pulse.
then there's no hope for you.
Yeah, no, it's just that show's awesome.
Yeah. Very underrated.
We might have to do a whole like breakdown of that series at some point for.
Dude, I have the entire series on DVD.
Dude, we should definitely should do that. We should do like watch it all and like do like a breakdown for people.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
The what else was I was no there's I was gonna tell you that there was a few movies that I have on my list that I was planning on watching like last week. It just didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
That I kind of want to watch, and like kind of like what we did with the 13 Reasons Why, like, and maybe like do something where we talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
There was three things. There was a Netflix show. And I cannot remember the title of it off the top of my head. Oh, it was Confession Tapes, and it was kind of detailing like a series of stories of people who have gone to jail for, and like they confess a crime, saying, but they're a lot of them believe that they were coerced into the confession, or flat out just didn't do it. Which is it's not quite as bad as How to Make a Murderer was, where there was I felt like a lot of details got left out of that, and you don't jump from like them telling like one part of the story like, oh, like look at all this evidence, he didn't do it, and then it's like guilty like across the board. Like it's kind of where there had to have been like some evidence that they didn't talk about. Was it sketchy?
Well, wait. In the first trial or for the second trial?
For the second trial.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it did. Yeah, there's some. Yeah, it did feel like they were leaving out stuff.
Yeah, that guy's first trial was like obviously he clearly didn't do it, but the second one, it's just like it was it handled incorrectly in a lot of ways? Absolutely. There, like, why that police force that was involved?
Yeah, the locals, right?
Yeah,
the local police.
Why they were involved in any way made zero sense. That I'll give them, but there had to have been evidence that, like, yeah, he was there. Both of those guys were there. They did it. The only person I felt bad was for his nephew, who just he is dumb.
Yeah, he is dumb as a bag of hammers.
He had no idea what he was doing.
Right? Yeah. Like he kept asking, after like the cops arrested him, after like freaking interrogating him without his mom or like an attorney.
A lawyer too. That's the other thing.
Yeah, that was another like shady ass thing that they did. And,
but
like,
he doesn't know that.
Yeah, and he kept like asking, "Oh, when can I go home? I want to watch Scooby Doo or whatever." And I was like, "Oh my god, this kid doesn't. He hasn't. This kid is not capable. This kid is unaware of what is going on and like the significance or like the stakes like that are involved in this this situation that he's in. He's completely unaware and he's completely mentally incapable of understanding what's going on. And like they get like the confession out of him. And it's somehow like without an advocate, without a parent, without a lawyer, and like that somehow that confession is still allowed to stand in the court of law.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, so stuff was handled poorly there. But like it's more. I'm pretty sure they did it. But like this, the show also on Netflix called Confession Tapes, and I want you and James to watch it. Mm-hmm. It's not just one story; it's a series of different stories of like kind of the similar nature of these people who are kind of like, well, the first story is a two-parter, and the way that they got these guys to confess is really sketchy. Because it was taking place between like, because I think they were citizens of Canada. They were Canadian citizens but they lived in the U.S. or vice versa. I can't remember how it was, but I think it was that they were Canadians that had moved to them and their families had moved to America, and there was a the thing is these group of kids killed the other kids' parents, but the way that they did it is they got their confession completely illegal here in the U.S., but apparently at the time was normal practice in Canada, and it was just really weird how it was handled.
Mm-hmm.
But you're getting the side of the whole picture. I felt like you're getting more of the evidence and what was going through the thoughts and minds of the different the detectives, the people themselves and their families, and so it was kind of interesting. So I kind of want you guys to watch that, and so we can do a talk like we did with 13 Reasons Why.
Mm-hmm.
And then the two movies I want to watch and discuss are The Last Temptation of Christ and Silence.
Silence was good. I can't remember too much. I mean, I remember watching The Last Temptation of Christ, but I was still so young when I did that I forgot a lot of it. But Silence was pretty good.
Yeah, I had always heard about The Last Temptation of Christ, and I haven't watched it myself, but I was told that a lot of people missed the mark on that movie as far as the reviews go.
Mm-hmm.
And that always intrigues me because everyone's just kind of dogpiling on one side of it. So let's take a deeper look and actually what was trying to be conveyed in that message, because I think there's something there's supposed to be kind of a good meaning to that movie, and everyone took it one way, and I think it's probably possible it's supposed to be another.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with Silence. I heard opens up a bunch of an interesting dialogue to have, concerning apostasy and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And, me, I love that type of stuff. So
yeah,
people don't like movies that don't end in a happy-go-lucky
nice little
puppy dogs and rainbow.
But I will say, for even as good as Silence was, there was this one thing that they did that it kind of ruined the movie for me.
What was that? I'll be.
I don't want to give any spoilers.
Was it a character, something that was said, or just a concept that was put out there that was kind of just?
Yeah, it was more of an action. I'll just say this thing. It's towards the end, so that's why I don't want to ruin it.
Oh, okay, all right. So,
but I'll try to describe it as much as possible, but without giving it away. It was basically
no. Let's not give it away.
No. I want to try and describe. I'll try and put it in terms that that won't give anything away. In any specifics, but I'll just try to explain my feelings for it. It was just one of those. It was the last scene, and it's one of those. It was one of those, it was one of those high level, high stakes kind of decision moments.
Uh-huh.
And he's basically wrestling. He's wrestling with his faith and his own human desire to live. And so but this thing happens seemingly out of left field. And I was like, no, because for me at least, if you might watch it and think that it wasn't that bad, but for me, I'm just speaking for myself. I'm not speaking on behalf of Martin Scorsese or whatever. But yeah, it just took me out of the movie because it was because nothing prior to the ending ever really set that up for me. And so but then they went ahead and did it, and I'm just like, why?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, overall, I
yeah,
would
no,
say overall it's still a good movie, and I would
yeah, it
recommend
was
it.
just that one like element that was like, damn, like it could have been a lot better.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, I
Yeah,
think like
because
I
yeah,
want
that
to,
movie was all about kind of the struggle and what
and I think that's a
what you have to do or what you must do as a human being. Especially in desperate or harrowing situations. Like
and that's
what would you do in like a situation where you were being persecuted to the max
yeah.
for your faith?
That's and that I think that's well, not only like for Christians, like that's a huge
Yeah,
like
yeah. I mean, I think it's an
right?
open question to like anyone
A
who's
lot of
of
people
faith.
don't even approach it just because it's such a like it's kind of it's a tough discussion to have.
Yeah, no,
But
totally.
not only believers, but I think just people in general, like where you have convictions of stuff, and it's like, are you willing to like put your some people are willing to put their life on the line, but it's like, and I heard that it's like they were like, if you give in, like it's not like just your life; it's other people's lives too that are
Yeah,
stake.
yeah,
Are
yeah,
you
yeah.
willing? Are you
Exactly.
willing to? Do
Yeah,
you
so you're
believe and
like,
are
yeah,
willing to go that far?
you basically have the world on your shoulders.
Yeah,
if you make a decision, and so like you could be selfish or you could kind of bear the cross as it were.
and I think that's a relevant discussion for anyone to have. Do you believe in like what you believe in so much that either a you're willing to die for it or willing to put others at risk for that same belief? That's really like that's a tough question.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, yeah. I mean that question does bear relevance in today's times. I mean, not just like even uh, like on a spiritual level, but even just integrity.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
especially with the recent revelations with that movie producer Harvey Weinstein and all the
Well, what happened?
alleged sexual impropriety.
Well, I didn't hear this story. What happened?
Oh well, Harvey Weinstein, the guy that co-founded Miramax and the Weinstein Company, the movie distributors and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
studio. Like apparently, he been acting or he acted inappropriately like with women like for almost like 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
and and it's now all of a sudden coming to light that he has been like he supposedly he's masturbated in front of like people. He's made like women like watch him shower. He's like he asked he would bring that he would get them into the he would coerce them into performing oral sex or
Damn.
and and apparently it was going allegedly I should say allegedly it's been going on for 30 years but uh, you know there was this reporter who used to work for the New York Times, I believe, who actually was getting the story together back in like the '90s, like late '90s, and she was like compiling, she was getting all the story, getting all her sources in line, but then the editors or whatever like buried the story. Like they
Damn.
gutted it. They like left in only like the bare minimum information and none of like the incriminating stuff. And apparently, like he's been making payouts to like the women for years. To keep them quiet and stuff. And so now, like all these celebrities are coming out, like especially the ones who like had like experiences with this guy. Like Ashley Judd was one. And now that
That
she's
would
like
have maybe explain her behavior the way
exactly.
she is now, but
That's exactly what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking. It's like no wonder she's like a crazy feminist now.
I mean, like, that. Gosh, I mean, now we're kind of delving into another serious topic, which maybe we'll finish up next week. But like, yeah, there's something about like the sexual abuse and stuff that goes on, whether it be like, you know, rape or like child stuff or, you know, whatever, just really disgusting stuff. That really fucks with people's heads.
Yeah, no,
Like, I
totally
mean,
does.
you know, it's where, you know, even it was probably said in a very odd, the way that it came out was kind of an odd manner, but like, you know, Milo Yiannopoulos talked about that stuff where it's like
Right, yeah.
you know, he believes that a lot of the way that he is now came from like when he got molested and fucked as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, and that's what kind of like turned him onto the lifestyle that he's in now. I mean, say what you will. I'm not like advocating that, like, you know, because there's always that argument. Oh, it's you're born with it or whatnot. Like that's not the argument I'm trying to make. But I think there is some truth to that. Some people are their brain or whatever like gets fractured in a way where that they go down this different path that they wouldn't have otherwise been down. And that's and that's like definitely one of those big catalysts where it's like it really fucks with people's like heads and like they just become completely different people. And you know, they might you know, they're the mind is a funny thing where it'll shut that out for like, and you know, you might not even, you know, a year later you're just like, oh, it's like you don't even remember what happened. And then just all of a sudden it could be like a you know, like 20 years down the road it could be a smell or you know, something you read or just like you hear like a sound, and it's like you're right back in that moment like you were 20 years ago, like like it's happening right at that moment, which is and it messes people up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like getting back to like the whole integrity thing is like, you know, if supposedly like, you know, it was one of like the worst kept secrets in Hollywood, you know, because like everyone knew about it, and like I saw on like NBC or ABC Nightly News or whatever that even like Angelina Jolie like had a bad experience with Harvey Weinstein, and she would actually even warn like young actresses, you know, about it. It's like don't like, you know, if he says like he's got a part for you or whatever, he invites you to his like Beverly Hills hotel or whatever, don't go. Like, and she would like warn. Yeah, and supposedly like, you know, at the time, you know, even Gwyneth Paltrow had a bad incident, you know, and and supposedly like when she was dating Brad Pitt and like went to go confront, you know, Harvey Weinstein and all that stuff. But again, I think it comes back to like this the idea of integrity. It's like, because like how you were saying, like, you know, what will you do to if I misquote you, I apologize. But what was it? It's like, what would you do to oh God, what did you say? Oh man, I can't even think of it anymore.
What I had said is like,
something about like, sacrifice and like,
because what you believe in, like, are you willing to like not only are you willing to sacrifice yourself or like those that are like close to you, like
right for that. And I think this is a perfect example, because if this guy was, you know, doing this stuff for like 30 years. And it wasn't, and again, like, you know, they describe, you know, people in Hollywood had described it as the worst kept secret in Hollywood. Then why didn't anyone, you know, come out? You know, why didn't like anyone try to stop this? You know, why didn't anyone try to like nip this guy in the bud? You know, even if it, you know, would have hit them, you know, even if they would have taken a hit, like maybe financially, maybe in terms of being able to work in Hollywood. You know, why didn't they do it? You know, why didn't they come forward and like, yes, this guy, you know, did this. He's a monster. Yada yada yada. You know, and it's because like they weren't willing to take the hit. They weren't willing to make the sacrifice on behalf of someone else. I mean, maybe you might give credit to Angelina Jolie for like, you know, kind of warning people or like warning like new actresses or whatever about this guy, but there was no cost to her. She just, said under her breath, like, oh, just don't ever meet with this guy. But she never, came out like with a, full page, article in the the New York Times or whatever, denouncing this guy.
Yeah, it's that stuff is just. I also hear that there's a lot of talk that there's a lot of like child predators in Hollywood.
Yeah, well, his face, Corey Feldman. Come out, and even Elijah Woods too.
Yeah, Elijah Woods seems a hell of a lot more credible to me than Corey Feldman. But Corey Feldman, like the way that apparently him and Corey Haim were getting boo-fooed in the butt, like kind of all the time, and it's like it really like messed them up. That's what
Corey Haim, it scarred him so bad that he died pretty much penniless and in the gutter.
Yeah, which it's sad. And I'm not like all that stuff is alleged. Like there still has to be
there still has to be proof. You can't just
because there's been times where it's like, oh wait, actually they didn't do it, and it's like, well, they're fucked forever, essentially, just based off the accusation.
Mm-hmm. Right? But yeah. I mean, again,
that is true. That is. Dude, I mean, even someone like that high up, like, that's insane. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But, wow, we already hit an hour. That's
it's never a hard thing for us to cover an hour.
Well, it's one of those. It always surprises me every week because I kind of came when we were kind of discussing tonight for the live stream, and I had a whole different idea in mind, and it just conversation is interesting if kind of letting the conversation go and flow and just seeing kind of where it goes. You get to explore a lot of interesting ideas along the way, mm-hmm. and that's something I've really kind of enjoyed about doing these live streams is, maybe people are tired of you and I, but I think you and I have had a lot of very interesting discussions on things and in kind of funnier and sometimes more serious topics, and I find that really fascinating how that works out, mm-hmm. and just kind of not necessarily being pigeonholed into one idea. Mm-hmm. But allowing just kind of more free thought. Like let's explore some of these issues. Let's think about them and go in depth. So that's the nature of conversations. There's no way of following the trail back because it's a windy and twisted one. Yeah, and so it's like you can start off with something as banal as talking about the weather. To all of a sudden talking about geopolitical instability in North Korea or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, that's kind of how our channel got started. Essentially, it was our guys' bar conversations that we would have and just the fun times. We would just kind of have these great conversations about whatever and. I think this is just kind of a great extension of that. Yeah, and I think it's also a response to just frustrations and being saturated by more leftist talking points. Never really getting in. It's just I watch some of these shows and they. The View, and I'm just screaming at my I mean, I don't purposely watch The View. I'm just sometimes in the morning, I'm just channel surfing, and it's oh, The View. Okay, let's see what crazy thing Joy Behar or Whoopi Goldberg says today. And then just kind of is how there's some people that they get off on pain and they'll put cigarettes out on themselves. Is that what you do with The View? Is that your cigarette put out? Eerily enough, it kind of is. To be completely honest, sometimes. So just need to feel
Yeah, so
something.
it's like, they'll, like, yeah. So Joy Behar or Whoopi Goldberg was saying something stupid, and just like, oh, why you? It's like you are being so ignorant. You're just, you're just spreading misinformation about something. It's just like, I mean, every now and again they do say stuff that like that I will have to give props for. Well, I forget what it was. Whoopi said something like a few months ago that I was like, oh my god, I can't believe Whoopi Goldberg and I agree on something.
Well, it's always the one we were shocked when we actually when we thought, wow, Piers Morgan is the voice of reason.
Oh yeah, right, yeah.
Right.
On Bill Maher's show of all places, and Piers Morgan was being the voice of reason, and I'm like, holy crap, I'm siding with Piers Morgan. But then I go, and then again, of course, like a couple days later, he says something stupid, and it's like, oh, there's the Piers that I know.
There we go. Here's the guy that we know. What was it? They tried having a conservative lady on there with because they had Candace Cameron Bure on the
yeah.
And they fucking railroaded her off the show. Oh my gosh! She talked about that what happened. It's like, good God, they fucked her over so bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember when she came out with her book and was saying how, a woman should be, subject to her husband or whatever.
Well, but she's a diehard believer too. That's the other thing.
But it was like, but she said but she said within the context of a Christian relationship. So the man and the woman, are both believers, and and within marriage and within marriage, and presumably they both are disciples of Christ, then yeah, like the woman should take the man's lead. I mean, I forget, did she use the word subservient or
I don't
submit,
remember,
or even submit? Exactly. They lose their minds when you say submit.
Well, and and what people don't understand is submit in that sense doesn't mean you're a slave. That's not what that means.
Just saying, let the man be the man.
No, and see, in what relationships be is it's not one person over another. It's creating this positive cycle where you're a partnership, and it's recognizing the differences between genders, and that women tend to be in a lot of cases tend to be the fairer gender, and they need someone that they need to feel safe, protected.
Right. They're better at moral support.
Right. Whereas
where the man is more they're more likely to take more risks, and and when they do take those risks, a man decides to quit his job and open up a hardware store, and he needs that moral support from his wife to help him succeed in his new business venture. That's, and that's all it is.
And what that does is create a positive cycle that creates love in the relationship, and it's not, and like I said, it could be the other way around sometimes. Because I know there's some women that have more of that more of the drive of the guy,
a little bit more masculine energy.
Yeah, and there's sometimes guys that are a little bit more of that very caring, moral supportish type of guys. It doesn't make them weak or anything. It's just, but all that is creating a positive cycle of so that a relationship can continue and grow and be good. And I think that's what people don't understand or get. And it's not even just Christian relationships. I think people just in relationships in general would benefit from really understanding that it's that mutual partnership. You really have to work together. It can't be I'm the dominator, you just do what I say kind of thing. That doesn't work.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's it all comes down to complementarianism.
Exactly.
So the man has a certain set of skills or abilities, and the woman has a certain set set of skills or abilities. You know, they're not always the same, but what they do is they complement each other. So the man can do what he's good at, and then the woman can do what she's good at, and then the woman supports the man, but then the man also supports the woman.
Yeah, but I could see like those ladies on The View, their heads fucking exploded with that idea. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, good lord, it's like they didn't even like let her like finish her point.
Yeah, they never even let her like elucidate her idea, because she was saying within the context of a Christian marriage. So like if you are if you're first submitted to under Christ, then you should then submit yourself like to your husband. And even some people say like, oh, it says like the women are slaves in the Bible. It's like, no. They always take that part out of context or misquote it. But then Paul also says men, be good to your wives and treat them as like the best among you.
Yeah,
I mean, that doesn't sound like a slave to me.
Yeah, it's just but people, like I said, it goes back to that point where it's like that would take like 10 seconds of research that no one's gonna do. Because they want to be outraged, and they want to have their grandstanding moment of instead of actually like learning something different.
Yeah, it's funny because they so desperately want to have the moral high ground on something that that they'll just unthinkingly attack something without fully grasping the concept or the underlying, philosophy or ideology or reasoning behind it.
Right.
But it's funny because like, what is it? Like the ideas of the Bible, the ideas of Christianity are what enable us to have like the ultimate high ground, the moral high ground.
Yeah.
And yet they still like attack it as though it's like poison.
Well, I mean I mean, hell, the Bible even like said that that's most likely going to happen. But that's the great thing about like a platform like this. Kind of getting back to the point is that we don't need to have those like head explosion moments. Like there might be times like, what, you really like, you think that? Okay, like let's explore that. Like I want to know how you got to that like viewpoint like that. And that's an interesting conversation in and of itself. So that's the thing I like about this a lot. We're not here to say like your idea is dumb, mine's the best idea, or whatever. But it allows us to just really explore thought.
Mm-hmm. It allows us to it allows to stretch it out, and really get like the full breadth and depth of our ideas, as opposed to like the traditional talk shows you see on TV or on like the cable news networks, where we have like 1 minute to tell to talk about this really complicated thing and condense it within 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, it's like you see all like the like how we have it on here. We have two different like sides with like you on one side, me on the other. Well, on those shows, it's like 4 or 5 different. It's like, excuse me, I was talking.
Right, I know, it's a constant interruptions and they're talking over each other. Like right now.
We have 2 hands and we can't even fucking figure it out. So,
I know, right? There's no hope. There's no hope.
Yeah, and we have an hour to deal with it.
I know. Yeah, but like those like huge CNN panels, like where it's like 4 or 5 people deep, and it's like how that, like, especially when they do it over, kind of like Skype, or it's like from remote like locations, and like you're supposed to have a conversation like with 5 people, and you think that it's gonna go well. No, it's gonna be utter chaos unless you're sitting in the same room with the person, like directly across from them. Then you're never gonna really be able to hash out ideas.
I feel like that's exactly what's happening here. I can't hash out my ideas. You're impossible, Andy.
Well, you know what? I don't know. I have no credible threat, to follow after that. It's just like, what am I gonna do? It's like and disconnect Robert. Anyways, it's the Andrew show now.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I could have pulled a CNN. It's like, what, Robert? We're having connection problems. It's like, and we lost Robert.
Yeah. Oh man. But all it boils down to is I really love having this time to really converse, and in a lot of ways it's been very therapeutic going talking about stuff, just to get just the random thoughts that are in my head just out there, and kind of like wrestling with different stuff with you, and I'm looking forward to more weeks of doing this, man. Like this has been great.
Mm-hmm. Word.
Well, we didn't have unfortunately, I have not been able to watch any movies recently, so I think this week I'm gonna just burn through a bunch of them, and that way we have, we can keep that segment going. So I don't really have a movie to talk about.
Yeah, I mean the only movie I watched recently was Kingsman.
Oh yeah, actually, well I saw that too. I guess we could talk about that if you want.
Not really. I mean, it's not, it's gonna run the same kind of thing. It's like, oh yeah, it was fun, entertaining, but it's not as good as the first one.
Well, yeah.
It's not like it's breaking like it's not like that movie's breaking new ground either. So.
No, I think it's just a kind of a fun, silly.
Yeah, it's like fun escapism. So it's something to like shut off your brain and just watch. And it's like, oh, whoa, all this, all the cool action like sequences and stuff. Although I will say that nothing is gonna top that church scene in the first one.
Oh fuck, that was awesome.
But I think towards the end, that last scene, I think that last fight scene, I think they did. It was okay. It was, it's never gonna be like the church scene, but I think, they did their best with that last fight scene.
Like I said, it's interesting enough. I mean, I think they said it. The way that they ended this one, they kind of set it up for there to be a third one. I'm assuming. So we'll. I mean, I'll probably watch it.
I think. Well, I mean, who knows nowadays? Because the whole idea of like summer blockbusters and like burying poorly projected movies in in February and in November, all that stuff is gone because like Deadpool, came out in February and it was a hit. Like it did like the best. It did the best out of any movie that came out in February.
Yeah, the whole landscape of that is just completely different.
There's no guarantees of like the tentpole like summer blockbuster or the surprise like sleeper hit of the winter. There's nothing like that. And it's the whole movie industry is like upended and on its ear.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, when it comes out, it comes out. Fuck it. There are some movies I'm looking forward to watching. I've been hearing good things about the new Blade Runner.
Oh yeah, me too. I want to watch that.
Yeah, I want to refresh myself. I was told I don't need to, but I want to refresh myself by watching the original. And kind of because it's been
almost 30 years.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in 20 years, so so I want to watch the original again. I'm looking forward to the new Thor movie that's coming out.
That's fun. And Justice League and Star Wars, of course.
Yeah, Star Wars is going to be the one that I'll be watching.
Oh, did you see the new trailer that dropped today?
Honestly, I've been staying away from watching any trailers. I want to go in cold.
Oh wow!
I watched the first trailer that came out. I was like, oh, that's it. I'm not watching any more fucking trailers. So
I know, especially like nowadays, it's like people like, especially like on the message boards and like 4chan and Reddit, like they implement they employ like their autistic army, and they like find every little detail, and like they come up with like all these like crazy theories, and it's like sometimes they turn out to be true.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't want to ruin the experience before I go in. That's why I love going in cold and just watching stuff. Like I said, that movie that we watched a few months ago, Shadow of a Doubt. Like, I mean, it's an old movie, but we didn't know anything about it. We just went into that cold. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So I kind of like doing that. Now what I will do before I watch the new Star Wars is I will rewatch all 7.5 movies.
Jeez, really?
Yeah.
Wait, important question though. Important question. In order? Or augmented order?
I might do the augmented order where it's where 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3. But I'm not sure. What did I do last time when I did this? Because I did this before I watched episode 7.
I think a better. This is my opinion. A better order is 4, 5. 4, 5. If you want to, you can watch 1, but 2, 3, then 6.
Why would you say that?
Because then you get the reveal, like, because you watch 4, 5, and in Empire you get the revelation that Darth Vader is Luke's father, and then you go, and from there you go and watch how cool he was, or cool-ish, when he was younger, and see like him becoming Darth Vader.
Oh, that actually is not
and then you watch 6, and then you get and then you finish it off with 6, and it's like the complete
you watch
totality.
4 and 5, and you go into this giant flashback of Anakin Skywalker.
Exactly.
That makes. You know what? I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna try that. I think that's gonna be pretty awesome.
Right. Yeah, but I think again, episode 1 is optional. You can or you cannot. I think like you can omit episode 1, and you wouldn't really be missing anything, except for maybe cool lightsaber battles.
The one thing that to me, like, see, everyone like shits on number 1. I actually think 2 is the worst. It was done the worst, and that's just me. But I like the story enough where it's like, fuck it, I'll watch it again. But yeah, I think I'll do your order, Andy. I think that sounds pretty awesome. I'll try it that way this time.
Yeah, because it totally then makes sense. Because it's like,
because
you have like this huge reveal. It's like, oh my god, Darth Vader is Luke's father. It's like, well, how did he get like that? And it's like, whoa, let me tell you.
Boom, 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 boom.
Right, and then you go into like this huge flashback sequence of 1, 2, and 3. I mean, I personally don't think you don't really need to watch number 1, but I mean, again, it's optional. You can if you want.
Well, it kind of doing that way, almost like it's kind of like doing it that way. You kind of get like that Godfather 2 moment where you get like the whole history of how Vito Corleone kind of became.
Exactly. Yeah, his coming to America, and like him like rising through the ranks, and then he getting to a place of prominence, getting revenge for his father, and then like coming back and establishing himself as a Don. And
exactly, and yeah, so I think that it's kind of like that moment, like watching it that way.
Right, and then you cap it off with 6, and it's like perfect.
Yeah, and I'll watch 7 after all those.
Oh yeah, well you could start. Yeah, and then you can start more. You could start with Rogue One. Rogue One episode 4, 5, and the prequels, and then finish it off with 6, and then
I think that actually that's what I'm gonna do. I'll start with Rogue Squadron, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, then 6, and then 7. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna do that. I might do that next month, just because I don't know if it comes out is it coming out Christmas?
Yeah, it's coming out in December.
All right, maybe I'll watch it. Maybe I'll do that early December, and then I'll watch Star Wars like.
You can
first
do it
thing.
like the weekend of Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, true. Although they have that giant Simpsons marathon that goes on Thanksgiving weekend.
Oh
so
yeah, like what is it? All weekend? Every episode, every season.
I think I did that last year. I think I may have missed maybe about 30 of the episodes, but I watched all of them. I watched them all.
Jeez, Robert.
Yeah, I was hardcore, dude. Like I
mean, I love The Simpsons too, but jeez, I could take a break and take a shit or whatever.
Fuck, we'll also on this channel we're gonna do a definite Simpsons episode because that's my favorite all-time show ever.
I mean, I'll admit I haven't really watched it lately, but I still love it.
Yeah, it's so many great quotable lines. Just the genius of it is great. But well, I think we gave some bonus time, so kind of a makeup from last week with the scheduling.
Because we usually only go up to like quarter, like an hour and a quarter. But yeah, I think.
So we got a little bit of bonus time in, and I think had some worked through some stuff. And hey, you know what? If people don't agree with us, it's like, I mean, we're not experts on anything. This
is just our opinion. This is just how we have. This is our analysis of certain situations. This is just our take on things. If you disagree, then you disagree. And if you want to explain, why we're wrong, or if we're just slightly wrong, then leave in the comments. And we will reply.
And we definitely are waiting for that first hate comment. That's gonna be awesome.
Right. Yeah, but don't force it. Don't force it. It's like, I hate you guys. Sad face. No, I want specific. I want you to make fun of my hair. I want you to tell me I have a tiny dick.
No, it has to be one of those stuck in the basement, like jamming on the fucking keyboard with all caps and saying just hatred. That's the type of comment that I want. We're gonna drink. When that happens, we're gonna have a tall drink of like Jack Daniels to celebrate that.
I think it should be Blue Label.
Blue Label? Ooh, fancy. All right, I'm down.
I know, I'm fancy like that. All right, I guess that does it for us tonight. That does it for us tonight. Thank you for joining us on the Nocturnal Transmissions, presented to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. Don't forget, you can catch us every week, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Leave your comments. Come join us in the live chat. Also, don't forget to catch the latest Up by Up Down episode. That will be dropping this Thursday. And we have also the main podcast. We have an interview with a friend, Joel, who is a missionary and who has a very powerful and moving story about how he went from party frat boy to
missionary,
sold out missionary.
Yeah. And I got some other guests lined up, so we're definitely gonna have more of those episodes coming out.
Right. Yes.
Within the next month or so. So just keep on it, but enjoy the new interview. It was honestly, it's the best one that we've done so far. I had so much fun.
I concur, and there will be. We have begun dropping small clips. So if you want to just check out the small clips, and then if you're intrigued, you can watch the entire thing. That is available right now. I think I even link it at the bottom in the description if you want to go check that out. I think that's all of the announcements. Don't forget to follow us on our social medias, Twitter at Podcast COJ, and on Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. That's where we'll put announcements, maybe some fun things that we just think of, and like a lot of like behind the scenes stuff, and maybe like some goofy videos. So I think that's it. Again, thanks guys for joining us, and we'll see you next week.